But does it really have to be expensive?
Does a luxury watch really have to be expensive?
It's because of the distributors, wholesalers, and retail stores.
Think of branding costs, distributors, retail stores, and wholesalers.
By cutting out all the middlemen,
We have been cutting out all the hidden fees.
luxury watches directly to you
A luxury watch directly to the end customer
at a fraction of the retail price.
at a down-to-earth price.
Here's how we did it.
This is how we did it.
We took inspiration from Milan.
A brand inspired by Milan.
We will use premium Italian leather,
Only the best hand-picked Italian leather
a revolution in the luxury watch industry.
to revolutionize the watch industry.
And I will see you on the other side.
We hope to see you on the other side.
Seriously? Seriously? It's gotten to the point now where I'm left questioning if some of these brands are parodies or something. They all seem to be exactly the same. I stumbled upon this Valuchi Indiegogo advert a while back, and I initially mistook it for the near identical Filippo Loretti Kickstarter ad that I ripped apart about 12 months ago. Same questionable backstory, same obscure European theming, and the same claims of affordable luxury. The more I read into this so-called Valuchi, the more I began to wonder, is anything about this company original? I mean, the name itself is generic, they've copied another kid's homework with their ads, and their watches look just like an AP Royal Oak clone with the dial transplanted from a Filippo Loretti. If I bought one, would I even receive it? Or would it be another situation where a YouTube roast is required to even receive my watch months later? To find out, I pulled the trigger on the exact model pictured in their advertising. That being the £169 Lunar Calendar 40mm in silver blue. I placed the order under a pseudonym to prevent my online presence from affecting the whole process. I wanted to see what the typical customer experience would be like with this rather obscure company. I didn't receive an order confirmation email for a few days, which left me a little concerned, but surprisingly, after a week or so, a parcel arrived containing a Valuchi branded box. I was either getting a watch or getting whacked, one of the two. Before we look at what's inside, we need to see what was promised on their Indiegogo website and marketing. Then we can judge whether the product itself lives up to that level of hype. And trust me, you'll want to stick around for this one. Given that this brand was started via the crowdfunding platform Indiegogo in 2019, it seems like the perfect place for us to begin. Valuchi watches, luxury watches made affordable. You see what they did there? They took affordable luxury and flipped it the other way around. Revolutionary advertising, if I've ever seen it. They're immediately promising high-end watches at down-to-earth prices. You can see they raised over £200,000 from almost 1.5k backers. Scrolling down, there are a few attractive renderings of the watches, along with a segment where they flex their various media appearances. Some of their most notable claims are that their watches are guaranteed to turn heads, that their watches have been meticulously designed to ensure its simple perfection, and that their colour schemes are exceptional. I'm not sure what constitutes an exceptional colour scheme, but let's continue. They then later mention how they were inspired by Amsterdam and Milan, which is unusual considering the drastically different architecture across the two cities. The juicy bit is where they talk about the assembly. They go into detail about how they've partnered with the finest watch manufacturers and even use bold text when emphasizing how each watchmaker put considerable time, effort, and attention into their watches. It's a shame they didn't put considerable time, effort, and attention into their grammar. Unfortunately, they never state precisely where the watches are made. Despite this, they continue by stating that every watch is assembled using advanced technologies, artisanal know-how, authenticity, and exemplary finishing. If true, these surely must be luxury quality watches. At one point, they even state that this is the very best watch Valuchi can offer. So they're clearly leaving nothing on the table with these watches, and they're not cutting corners. Something they are cutting, however, is the ever-faithful middlemen. After bragging about their premium luxury Italian leather straps that supposedly upgrade these watches to the level of a $1,000 timepiece, they quickly hit us with the problem that their brand aims to solve. That being the supposed hidden fees that customers are normally charged when buying a luxury watch. By removing branding cost, whatever that is, Distributors, retail stores and wholesalers, they can provide a watch that rivals a $2,000 one for a fraction of the price. It almost sounds too good to be true. It's fair to say that my expectations were pretty high after reading this, but I did notice a few quirks. For example, the leather strap pictured didn't look like a Valuchi strap, given the standardized lugs. I also thought I recognized the main shot of the leather worker from the work I did on my Spaghetti Scametti parody advert earlier this year. After some quick Googling, it appears that this is, in fact, a Shutterstock stock image. This piqued my interest. I began looking at some of their other images and made some unusual discoveries. Before we get into those unusual discoveries, here's a discovery worth knowing about. Our video sponsor WatchShop is having a huge Black Friday sale with up to 50% off designer and luxury watches, and with code BF30 you can get an extra 30% off selected lines too. They're number one for brands with over 150 of your favourite watchmakers in stock, including Tissot, Seiko, Hamilton, Casio, Rotary, and many more. My favourite picks include the ever-reliable Casio G-Shock DW5610 with its rugged construction and surprisingly legible inverted display. It comes with all of your favourite functions as well as 20-bar water resistance. There's also a hidden gem in the form of the Seiko SNE047. This is a very slick 38mm solar watch that looks much more expensive than the price tag would suggest. It comes with a solid link bracelet and an attractive sunburst dial, in addition to the beautifully ridged lugs. If you're after a gift for the woman in your life, my wife has given her seal of approval to this mother of pearl citizen dress watch, which she tells me is very stylish. If you're clueless about women's fashion like me, then maybe that one's worth a pickup. Get the best designer and luxury Black Friday deals at WatchShop, link in the video description. After a couple of reverse image searches, it turns out that all four of Valuchi's world-class crafting product shots have dubious origins. The lower left image has been borrowed from Swiss Info, which is part of the Swiss Broadcasting Corporation. The image just being cropped slightly. Perhaps these watches are Swiss after all. The upper right photo was instead taken from Frédéric Constant, who knows how to say it, where the dial has been substituted for a Valuchi one. Notice the lack of a shadow under the watchmaker's finger in the Valuchi image versus the original. The remaining two images have been shamelessly stolen from competing Kickstarter brand L'Aventure, with the dials once more edited to look like Valuchi ones, along with some minor tweaking to try and make the edit look more convincing. If you look closely, you can tell that all three aren't even photos of the Valuchi dials, they're computer-generated mock-ups. Did Valuchi obtain the commercial rights to all four of these images from their respective brands? I have about as much confidence in that as I do in their 2-year guarantee. The cringeworthy advert that accompanies the campaign echoes most of these points and features the stereotypical imagery of people sitting at a computer screen designing watches. For a few seconds, you can see a leatherworker cutting and sewing an item that bears no resemblance to any Valuchi product that I could find. It seems to resemble a bag handle or something similar, leading me to believe that this is once again stock footage, but I'm no leather expert. Their website is plastered with claims of luxury, with them going as far as to call their pieces perfection on more than one occasion, which I found quite amusing. My favourite part though is on the front page, where they say, "World-class, international, high fashion and an authentic feeling is made into this watch." That last one, authentic, seems to crop up quite a lot. Authentic as opposed to... The About section tells us a bit more about the founder, Kelvin. I don't condone any harassment of him or his team, by the way. Keep all the banter in the comments of this video. Unlike Daniel Wellington or Movement, this section sounds like it might have some basis in reality. The one thing I will point out is that our boy Kelvin here is Dutch, despite the Italian-sounding brand name. When searching for the reviews section on their website, I stumbled upon something rather unexpected. A page containing an article written by someone named Alex Stones, with the branding for a site called Horology Journal. This listicle post reads like one long advert, with the narrator shilling Valuchi at every one of the 6 points featured. It contains some of the same stolen product shots as the Indiegogo page, and oddly enough is found at this web address. That's right, this article is hosted on the Valuchi website, despite the replacement of their branding with that of this mysterious Horology Journal instead. I can't find any further references to this journal on their website or the rest of the internet for that matter. It seems to me that this review, as they're calling it in their URL and metadata, has been completely fabricated to appear in search results and to give the impression that it's been written by a third party. I can't find any mention of a watch reviewer that goes by the name of Alex Stones, and the watch community is far from the biggest online club to begin with. A new piece of information presented here is this uninformative bar chart, which supposedly compares Valuchi's costs to mysterious others that cost €1,000 plus. One thing that confounded me is how, providing the quality of the watches are the same, Valuchi can undercut the design, manufacture, and distribution costs by more than half, while still making a profit of their own. Watch brands have to endure these costs to physically make their products. And believe me, large multinational profit-driven companies will already be doing everything in their power to keep these costs as low as possible to improve their margins. I have a couple of questions. How can a tiny brand undercut manufacturing giants when economies of scale are considered? Overlooking the complete lack of data to back this chart up, is this comparison an example of Valuchi inadvertently admitting that they're cutting corners, given that their figure for this essential stat is lower? The supplementary text tries to expand on this with the ever-present references to branding cost, distributors, retail stores, and wholesalers that Valuchi is apparently sidestepping. Now, I'm not much of a Facebook user, but the Time Teller shared a screenshot of a Valuchi post where the brand taunted Audemars Piguet for charging what they do for their Royal Oak. The sponsored label reveals that this is a paid advertisement, which in my books constitutes a branding cost. I can't see which of the other ones it falls under, but it gets better. They shamelessly even have a store locator section on their website detailing a minimum of 11 retail stores that stock Valuchi products. Come on guys, you're literally handing me this stuff on a silver platter. So that's what they're promising, and that's apparently how they're pulling it off. A $2,000 or €2,000 watch for 150 quid. That makes it a win-win for me. I'm either going to bag myself a bargain of a watch or some extremely fun YouTube content. Let's unplug from the Matrix for a moment and take a look at what was delivered. The DHL consignment note revealed some interesting information. It appears that this Valuchi watch has made its way to the UK via a shipping warehouse in Dubai. Wait, didn't Valuchi brag about not having distribution fees? Perhaps the watch was made in the horological nexus that is the United Arab Emirates, and this is some distorted direct-to-consumer business model. Well, that conspiracy theory was quickly debunked when the attached invoice confirmed that the country of origin was, you guessed it, China.
It comes from China.
The ship from section confusingly states that it was sent from a town on the outskirts of Amsterdam. So from China to the Netherlands, across to Dubai, and then finally to the UK? This watch had more abroad holidays in a week than I had in the last decade. Whether it's cost effective or not, this evidences that their promise to cut out distributors in their promo video was nothing short of a falsehood. I mean, they're literally using DHL. Given the journey, it's unsurprising that the box had received some bumps and bruises on its travels. There were also some luxury tears to the internal pillow, along with a dusting of luxury dirt throughout. Oddly, there was also a sticker on the outside, with a marked price of €147, which equates to 125 British pounds at the current exchange rate. Remember, I paid £169 for this watch on their website, so I feel like I've been completely swindled out of 40 quid. Where is this watch available for that price? Still, it did protect the watch, which arrived successfully. Sort of. We'll get to the caveat in a moment, but let's talk about the watch itself. Despite the multitude of stolen promotional images, this watch does look just like the majority of their renderings. The blue dial has a great sunburst to it, and the punchier colours look much more pleasing than the dull Filippo Loretti moon phase that I previously looked at. I'm stunned to admit that the brush case is also fairly well done for the retail price, and the solid link bracelet, while featuring some stiff sections, appears to be high quality, which is a relief considering the proprietary end links. The primary issue with it is that butterfly clasps inherently house no micro-adjustment holes, so it may be difficult to find a comfortable fit. The tiny smooth hexagonal crown is also verging on unusable, but it does fit the look, I suppose. For those wondering how the luxury Italian leather straps stack up, don't worry. I ordered one of those too so I could test it out for you. Or so I thought. Yeah, the watch came, but the strap did not. I've had no further updates via email. It's been a couple of weeks now and there's still no sign of it, so I'm assuming it's never arriving. That's £20 instantly down the pan. Thanks, Valuchi. On the wrist, the watch wears like an Invicta. It might be 40mm across, but it feels like a 50mm one due to the inflexible end links that boost the effective lug-to-lug to around 60mm. Therefore, this lunar calendar probably won't fit you unless your name's Tyson Fury. It's a shame too because it is quite slim like in the renderings thanks to the quartz movement inside. In fact, we'd better check some of those specs. After all, a luxury watch needs luxury components, right? Otherwise it would just be a normal watch. According to the product page, this is kitted out with a high-quality Miyota 6P00, which is known for its frequent usage in a multitude of luxury watches worth thousands. In all seriousness, like with Filippo Loretti, the inclusion of this super basic ticker annihilates any claims of luxury. I've seen this movement make its way into £40 fashion watches for years now, and while it's not bottom of the barrel trash, it's no more than mediocre, even for the £150 price tag. Did that stop them from flexing about how these are real powerhouses? No, of course it didn't. Valuchi never specifies what crystal is being used on this watch, with it simply being listed as crystal glass on their Indiegogo page. Intriguing. My diamond tester quickly identified that it was a piece of generic flat mineral crystal and not sapphire, the material routinely used in luxury sports watches. This mineral glass costs around £1 per unit when bought en masse and is liable to accrue plenty of scratches over its lifespan, unlike the scratch-proof performance of sapphire, which would have been just a couple of quid more. But remember, they aren't cutting any corners. This is the very best watch that Valuchi can offer. The engraving looks alright despite being a little unnecessary, and the water performance is adequate too, at 5 bar. As a whole, the watch looks okay and feels like it's still built reasonably well despite some of the subpar specifications. For the retail price, it's not a complete disaster. Is the overall quality indicative of a luxury watch, as was promised? On the majority of fronts, no. The quality control, for instance, isn't up to snuff. This unit has several misaligned markers, most prominently that at the 9 o'clock position, and the logo and accompanying text are also offset to the right slightly. The brushed finish itself, while not unattractive, hasn't been completed with the precision of most luxury watches. Additionally, the watch doesn't stand up well on a macro level, with the markers and handset looking rather basic versus true modern luxury watches. Even the £300 Orient Star Classic and May & Hudson are both several tiers above, so heaven knows how a £2,000 watch compares. To be clear, I've seen much worse from the likes of Movement and Daniel Wellington. To those who don't know about watches, this one probably looks half decent. Nevertheless, I can't say that this perpetual calendar is particularly original. I mentioned earlier how it looked like they copy and pasted the dial from a Filippo Loretti, as they really are very similar right down to the handset. That's not where the borrowing ends though. The case design with the screwed bezel and brushed finish is a blatant rip-off of the AP Royal Oak, and to a lesser extent this Hublot. Funnily enough, the former is the same brand that Valuchi were previously taunting on Facebook. The second hand has also been copied straight from a Rolex Milgauss, leading to a final result that the borrowers would be proud of. Maybe this is what they meant when they claimed they had lower design costs than luxury brands. After all, it's much easier to steal various design elements and Frankenstein them together than it is to come up with something original. If you're not bothered by these pinched design elements, then you may as well take a look at homage watches instead, most of which go the whole way and outright clone famous designs for cheap prices. I don't like them. I think that they're kind of fakes in disguise, but maybe you will. I definitely disagree with the notion that Valuchi watches have been meticulously designed as stated on their Indiegogo page. Ctrl-C and Ctrl-V aren't that hard to reach. Despite the unoriginal design, you may be presented with a more pressing issue when attempting to buy a Valuchi watch. That being, obtaining one. Their Indiegogo and Trustpilot pages are flooded with comments from people who never received their orders, in many cases several months after placing them.
Oh shit, here we go again.
I don't think these are fake either, as several reviews note similar issues to what I encountered during the ordering process, such as the lack of a prompt order confirmation email and the absence of a tracking number. Unlike with Filippo Loretti, I didn't have to wait months to receive my unit. Just be aware that there appears to be a high chance that you won't be so lucky. While researching these reviews, I noticed something much more peculiar. There had been a recent influx of 5 consecutive 5-star reviews on Trustpilot. This was in contrast to the predominantly negative sentiment shared on the site before then. In fact, until the 25th of March 2021, the highest rating given to the brand was 2 stars by 2 different reviewers, with the remainder of scores sitting at just 1 star. Then, all of a sudden, on the same day, 3 5-star reviews appeared on the site, including 2 from the Netherlands, with 1 even being written in Dutch. What a coincidence that Valuchi is based out of the Netherlands, eh? Then a couple of months later, another pair of 5-star reviews appeared, just a day apart from one another. Out of these 5 mysterious users, Not a single one has left a review for any brand other than Valuchi watches on the Trustpilot platform. Neither had any of these received the verified purchase tick, as is present on several of the negative reviews. Many of them exhibit broken English and all have verbiage congruent with that on a billboard advertisement. To me, this screams paid or illegitimate reviews. Sure, they aren't doing it to the extent that Filippo Loretti is, in my opinion. However, I still think some manipulation has gone on in an attempt to boost their overall rating on the platform. But I could be wrong, and this could all be a huge coincidence. In light of this, I decided to poll my own audience to see if they thought this brand was the real deal or an abysmal joke of a company. 66% of the 4.4k respondents voted that Valuchi watches were a borderline scam. That tells us all we need to know. I think it's fair to say that most luxury watches are purchased as status symbols, and I doubt anyone pursuing that would want to be spotted with a borderline scam on their wrist. I reckon most people with horological knowledge would quickly recognise that this lunar calendar is a poor imitation of a luxury watch, so I'm not sure who you'd be impressing by wearing one. I'm not sure Valuchi watches are particularly good value at their existing retail price, let alone compared to watches worth thousands. Casio, for example, has a comparable sporty quartz chronograph in their Edifice lineup that makes much more sense. This one comes with a similar yet original design, a more scratch-resistant sapphire crystal, and a bracelet that, while lower quality, is functionally much better. It's got micro-adjustment holes and proper flexibility, as well as standardized end links so you can switch it to any strap you like. This watch has the same type of movement as the Valuchi, is constructed in the same country, and is also made of stainless steel with arguably better finishing to boot. Did I mention it's over £50 less at the time of writing? When a Casio convincingly beats it, you know these wild claims of luxury can't be accurate. I'm not diminishing the Casio, by the way. That one is a solid watch for the price, but I can't think of anyone who'd consider them a luxury brand. If it is, I may as well rename this channel Ben's Luxury Watch Club, as I must have been reviewing luxury watches this whole time. The real question that this brings up is, why do brands keep doing this? Why do they continue to set up these formulaic, paint-by-numbers companies marketing entry-level products as affordable luxury? Well, the answer is, because people are falling for it. Remember the funding they raised on Indiegogo? Look at the back account, almost 1,500. When you consider that very few people are willing to become early adopters to unproven companies, that's a substantial figure, especially for a brand with seemingly no connections to the wristwatch industry. One can only imagine the number of regular customers. Who are these people then? Who's buying all this stuff? Well, an interesting find has all but confirmed my suspicions. While on their Trustpilot page, I discovered a segment that used an algorithm to showcase companies that prospective Valuchi customers were also looking at. That being Paul Rich, Waldor & Co, and Forge & Foster. I'll scroll through their sites quickly so you can take a look for yourself. What do you notice? It's all the same shit, right? The same marketing points and slogans, the same type of embellished backstories, and the same generic Chinese-made fashion watches that look like cheap copies of more expensive ones. Two of them even make their own AP ripoffs. None of these are established watch brands with long histories, rather they're all recently initiated projects, just like Valuchi. What this says to me is that customers are those trying to get a cheap fashion accessory that looks expensive, but have little knowledge about what else is out there. These brands target this consumer base via aggressive social media adverts, roping them in with claims of luxury and promises that traditional watch brands can't offer what the buyers are looking for. It feels like a fashion watch gold rush of sorts. First came the likes of Daniel Wellington and Movement. They were the first to use these tactics effectively, making them very rich in the process. Now loads of others are piling in to try and achieve similar results. These newcomers are replicating what is already proven to work because they don't have the skills or willingness to risk creating something new. Hence the recurring characteristics that we keep seeing across all these new companies. Valuchi takes this strategy to such an extreme that it leaves me questioning whether their marketing is also designed as bait for YouTubers like me. After all, more people are probably aware of this brand now after having watched this video. While I'm totally fine with people buying what they want and what they like the look of, I think it's important to recognize the distinction between marketing speak and outright lies. In my opinion, some of the tactics being used by brands like this cross that moral boundary and wander into the realms of pure fantasy. The psychological tactics in play can be particularly misleading for those new to the watch game who are just looking for a good-looking, quality watch, which these brands falsely claim are not available elsewhere. If you're cool with buying into lies and marketing fluff, then be my guest, go buy a Valuchi, a Scametti, whatever brand you want to, I'm not stopping you. You do you. At least now you've done your due diligence and know what you're getting yourself into. I don't think this watch is at all what was promised in the marketing. If you want to get more for your money, check out some of my roundup videos linked in the video description, which contain high quality options that aren't profiting from your naivety, some of which look better and cost less. There's some great options from our video sponsor also linked below. If you enjoyed, consider subscribing. I'll see you next time.